Deep in an ancient and forgotten forest, where darkness reigned even in broad daylight, lay an abandoned mansion, known to the locals as the House of Whispers. Legend had it that this haunted house appeared once every 100 years and kidnapped unsuspecting children who ventured too close. It was a stormy night when the mansion reappeared, emerging from the shadows like a wraith claiming its prey. Broken windows and wobbly doors echoed with the whispers of trapped souls and sinister whispers. The locals feared this event, but no one dared to enter that cursed place. However, a boy named Samuel, full of curiosity and bravery beyond his years, decided to defy the taboo and explore the House of Whispers. Driven by his adventurous spirit and the need to face his fears, he headed towards the mansion in the middle of the night. The wind blew cold and mysterious whispers accompanied it as Samuel crossed the threshold of the haunted house. Shadows writhed on the walls, and the creaking of the wooden steps seemed to whisper warnings. But the young man persisted, determined to discover the secret of that cursed place. As he made his way through the dark, dusty hallways, Samuel came across rooms covered in cobwebs and objects covered in dust. Portraits of unknown people hung on the walls, their gazes seemed to follow him at every step. The air was charged with an eerie energy, and shadows seemed to come to life around every corner. It was then that he heard soft crying coming from the basement. Without hesitating, he descended the stairs and found himself in an underground room, lit by flickering candles. In the center was a ring of frightened and disoriented children, prisoners of the haunted house's curse. The children explained to Samuel that they had been trapped by the House of Whispers, condemned to wander within it until the next 100-year cycle. Their voices had been silenced and their souls were trapped in perpetual limbo. Samuel promised to free them and undo the curse. Moved by fierce determination, Samuel searched every corner of the mansion for clues to find a way to break the spell. He discovered an old journal that belonged to the original architect of the mansion, a man obsessed with the occult and the dark arts. The diary revealed a macabre ritual that had to be carried out in the heart of the house to free the trapped children. With courage and resolve, Samuel embarked on the task of completing the ritual, facing unspeakable terrors and evil forces that sought to stop him. With each step he took, the dark forces intensified, unleashing their fury on Samuel. But he stood his ground, fueled by the determination to free the children and end the House of Whispers once and for all. Finally, at the height of the ritual, Samuel spoke the words of power and unleashed a blast of brilliant light. The house trembled and shook as the souls of the trapped children were released, rising into the light and finding peace. The House of Whispers faded into darkness, its curse finally broken. Samuel was left alone, contemplating the place where terror once arose. His story of bravery became a whispered tale from generation to generation, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the darkest places. The abandoned mansion became a forgotten ruin, a warning to those who dared to defy nature and the world's darkest secrets. And as the years passed, the story of Samuel and his fight against the House of Whispers became a symbol of hope and redemption in a world caught in the grip of terror. On a dark autumn night in Paris, when the clock struck 3 in the morning, the lonely streets became witnesses to a macabre and mysterious phenomenon, the disappearance of innocent children. This disturbing fact left the city's inhabitants terrified and bewildered, afraid to send their children out into the streets even during the day. The shadow of anguish and fear enveloped the streets of the City of Light when the night was at its darkest. Parents kept their children locked in their homes, hoping to protect them from the evil that lurked in the early morning darkness. However, the little ones, attracted by curiosity and a sense of adventure, decided to investigate on their own. Marie, a brave 10-year-old girl, daughter of one of the parents most affected by these disappearances, could not ignore the call of the mystery. Inspired by her love of fairy tales and her intrepid spirit, she decided to become the investigator of the night and find out who or what was behind these disappearances. Wearing a red coat, like a modern Little Red Riding Hood, Marie ventured into the lonely Parisian streets one night, as the full moon shone high in the sky. Following the intuition that only children have, she entered a sinister and unknown world. As she walked through the cobbled streets, the wind whispered haunting melodies in her ears. An evil aura enveloped the air, sending chills down her spine. Each step she took brought her closer to the dark heart of the city. It was then that Ella Marie heard a muffled wail, like a whisper, coming from a shadowy alley. Following the sound, she discovered a figure in the darkness. A pale, aged man, dressed in rags, held a flickering candle. "Have you come to find answers, little one?" the man whispered, his voice laden with a mixture of sadness and despair. Marie, fearful but determined, nodded. The man introduced himself as Jacques, a homeless man who had witnessed the disappearances. She explained that, according to rumors, a terrifying supernatural being prowled the streets of Paris during that dark hour, kidnapping children to feed on his innocence. Marie decided that it was time to stop this horror. Convinced that only she could do it, she asked Jacques to guide her through the underground labyrinth of the catacombs, where the evil being supposedly resided. Beneath the streets of Paris, in the dark corridors filled with bones and shadows, Marie faced her deepest fears. The flickering light of the candle guided her path, while whispers of evil lurked around her. Finally, they came to an underground chamber. There, in the gloom, the source of the disappearances was revealed, a grotesque being, half man and half monster, with sharp claws and hungry eyes. He was an ancient entity, whose origins went back to forgotten legends. Marie confronted the being, challenging it with his bravery and determination. Armed only with her wits and courage, she faced darkness incarnate. The confrontation was fierce and heartbreaking, but Marie did not give up. Finally, after an epic battle, Ella Marie managed to wound the monster and free the captured children. The evil being dissipated into darkness, and peace returned to the streets of Paris. From that night on, the city returned to its former splendor, and the children no longer disappeared into the cursed hours of the morning. Marie became a legendary hero, remembered for her bravery and her fight against evil. However, the city of Paris will never forget the night when the streets were filled with terror and the fate of the children hung in the balance. And as the bells of Notre Dame toll in the distance, the story of Marie, the little girl who braved the darkness, becomes a reminder that even in the darkest hours, there is always hope and courage to face the horrors that lie ahead. In a sleepy suburban town, daily life is upended by a wave of inexplicable terror. During the day, when the sun shone with its splendor, a hooded assassin stalked the streets, mercilessly attacking his victims. What was most disturbing, however, was that no one, not even the most advanced security cameras, could capture his face or his identity. The first attack happened on a sunny morning in a busy park. The locals enjoyed their time in the open air, oblivious to the danger that hung over them. It was then that the assassin, clad from head to toe in black with a hood that hid his face, pounced on an innocent victim, mercilessly stabbing her in front of a terrified crowd. Chaos engulfed the park as people ran in all directions, desperately seeking to escape the attack. However, as the authorities arrived and the security cameras activated, the killer seemed to evaporate into thin air, leaving only traces of confusion and horror in his wake. As the days passed, the attacks continued, each one more brutal and bloody than the last. The killer displayed an extraordinary ability to evade any attempt to be caught on video or photographed. Security cameras rendered useless in his presence, and witnesses could only provide vague and frightening descriptions. The city fell into a state of collective panic. People were afraid to leave their homes, even in broad daylight. The streets became deserted and silent as the hooded assassin took over the city, unleashing chaos and terror without being seen. A daring journalist named David Thompson set out to unmask the killer and reveal his identity to the world. He investigated every detail of the attacks, interviewing witnesses and meticulously studying damaged security cameras. David was met with a terrifying truth. The killer seemed to defy the laws of reality itself, as if he were beyond human comprehension. Determined to capture the killer and protect the city, David made daring prey. He ventured into the abandoned streets, risking his life to confront the enigmatic assassin. But each encounter left David with more questions than answers, more confused and terrified by the inexplicable nature of the killer. Finally, on a sunny and ominous afternoon, David found the hooded killer in a dark alley. Terror and adrenaline washed over him as he faced the shadowy figure. In a moment of desperate bravery, David ripped off the assassin's hood, hoping to discover his identity and end his reign of terror. However, what he saw took his breath away. Under the hood there was no face, not even a shadow of life. There was only darkness and emptiness. The hooded assassin was just a figure with no identity, a demonic presence that fed on the terror and confusion he sowed in his path. David's mind was filled with indescribable horror as he realized that he was facing a supernatural force beyond his comprehension. The entity quickly disappeared, leaving David alone in the darkness of the alley. From that day on, the story of the faceless hooded killer became an urban myth. The city never fully recovered from the wave of terror and mystery that surrounded it. Security cameras continued to be useless, unable to capture the presence of the evil entity. The story of David, the brave journalist who faced terror without a face, became a symbol of bravery and sacrifice. But the question of who the hooded assassin was and how to prevent his return remained unanswered. And so the city lived in a state of constant paranoia, with the threat of the faceless assassin lurking in the shadows. The lesson left behind by this story is that sometimes evil can manifest itself in inexplicable ways, challenging our most basic understandings and reminding us that there are mysteries the world can never solve. Deep in the center of a nameless city stood an imposing building, the National Bank. That steel and concrete structure housed something much more sinister than the citizens' money. Hidden in his basement was a mysterious vault, a place of which legends were whispered and few dared to speak of. The vault in question was known as the Lost Chamber. For decades, its existence had been a closely guarded secret by bank managers. It was said that a priceless treasure was stored there, not of material wealth, but of ancient knowledge and dark powers. A group of cunning thieves, known as the Silent Ones, had been planning the heist of the century and knew of the existence of the mysterious vault. Intrigued by the rumors and drawn by the promise of wealth and power, they set out to carry out their daring plan. The night chosen for the robbery was covered in a dense fog. The robbers infiltrated the bank, bypassing sophisticated security measures and making use of their specialized skills and tools. But as they entered the dark corridors, an eerie feeling invaded them. The whispers of the wind rang in his ears, and the air grew thicker and more oppressive. Finally, they reached the vault door. Once inside, they found a spectacle that defied logic and reality. Instead of the expected treasures, they found a vast empty chamber, lit by a dim glow. Strangely, there was no exit door. The thieves, confused and full of frustration, desperately tried to find a way out. but realized that they were trapped in an unknown location. The vault had taken on a life of its own, taking them into a realm beyond their comprehension. As time passed, the members of Los Silenciosos began to experience strange and terrifying occurrences. Vivid nightmares tormented them every night, causing them to doubt their sanity. Disturbing shadows crept into the corners, and unintelligible whispers echoed in their minds. Desperate to find a way out, they realized the vault served a much darker and more twisted purpose. He had trapped their souls and made them prisoners of a world beyond human reality. In that place, time and space were distorted, and the light of hope was fading fast. Years passed while the Silent Ones struggled to survive in that macabre and unknown kingdom. Their bodies grew weak and their minds filled with fear and despair. Every day became a battle against the dark forces that surrounded them. Meanwhile, in the outside world, investigators had begun looking into the disappearance of the Silent Ones. The bank robbery had been an event that had stumped everyone, but his disappearance without trace baffled the authorities even more. Theories about his whereabouts ranged from a well-planned escape to paranormal phenomena. A dogged researcher named Daniel DuPont set about unraveling the mystery. He studied bank records, consulted occult experts, and delved into ancient texts and legends. He discovered the existence of the lost chamber and realized that he must find a way to access it. Driven by determination and curiosity, Daniel ventured into the bank in search of answers. Following the clues and traces left by the Silent Ones, he reached the door of the vault. Once inside, he found the bleak scene, the skeletal bodies of the thieves who had succumbed to the darkness. Determined to free their souls and unlock the secret of the lost chamber, Daniel embarked on a voyage of discovery. Boldly, he faced the manifestations of evil that had beset the Silent Ones. After a bitter fight, he found a way to free their souls and escape from that sinister realm. Returning to the outside world, Daniel brought with him the knowledge and experience gained in the lost chamber. The story of the Silent Ones and their encounter with terror was etched in the annals of the unknown, a warning to those who dared to challenge the limits of reality. The National Bank Vault, now closed and sealed, became an urban legend, a reminder of dangers that lie beyond our comprehension. No one dared to investigate her again, leaving her forgotten, a silent warning to those who yearn for what they cannot understand. And so, the Banco Nacional and its cursed vault remained a monument to darkness and hidden secrets, reminding us that there are places and knowledge that are perhaps better left forgotten.